switching with me.
One.
I hereby declare the Candido County Board of Commissioners is now in session. Let us all please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone here and also want to thank you for your interest in Candido County government. Today, for the record, is June 7th, 2022. And the first item on our agenda is our consent agenda. Administrator Kleindall.
Mr. Chair, I would like to add one thing to the agenda that came up after the packet information went out, and it's a one item change for our remote work policy. And if I'd like to add that in the end of the agenda where I'm mostly on the agenda.
Okay. And no objections to that, I take it, Commissioners?
No.
Okay, then we'll move on to the rest of the consent agenda. We have 3 items. One is the minutes from our last meeting, and then we have the auditor warrants and claims that we all had a chance to see online, as well as a contract concerning semi-independent living services or SIL services.
I'll move the
Commissioner
consent agenda.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
And a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any questions or comments? Nothing to be polled. At this point, then, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Okay, at this point now,
Eric isn't here. I'll take it.
Here yet.
you want to move it forward with that?
I can
You're going to take that?
do it. Eric's not here. We can go ahead and do it.
Okay, at this time, we'll move into our first agenda item, regular agenda item, and it's a public hearing. And I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindall to give us a brief update concerning the noise ordinance number 3. And there's some changes that were requested. And this is a public hearing, and would you just give us an update what it's all about for everybody?
Correct. Mr. Chair, so we'll have a public hearing. This is the opportunity for the public to give public comment. After the public comment, you will close the hearing, and then you can make a decision of what you want to handle. I'm handling this on behalf of Sheriff Eric Colleen, who's been working with a group of us regarding concerns of the time enforcement ordinance complaint. Currently, under the Section 5 of the ordinance number 3, Candido County ordinance is amended to read substituting 72 hours for 40 or 24 hours. Currently, the statute or the ordinance says that if you have a warning within a 24-hour period and you do it twice within that period, you can be ticketed. Because of the tight timelines, we're asking to change that 24 hours to 72 hours to read every owner or person in lawful possession or in case of rental property to tenant of the premises where a party or gathering is a violation of this section occurs, who is present at such party or gathering, or who has knowledge of a party or gathering is guilty of a misdemeanor if the noise continues at a volume in violation of this ordinance after a law enforcement officer has notified the owner, tenant, or person in lawful possession of the case to be. That noise is in violation of the ordinance, or the noise reoccurs in a volume in violation of this ordinance within 72 hours of the notification of law enforcement officer. So that point I just read is 72 hours. That's what we're recommending. Currently, it says 24.
Okay.
So we're doing this because, again, just because of the 24-hour time period was just too tight. People would play the system.
Yeah, they were outsmarting us, correct?
Yeah.
Anything further on that? Otherwise, I will ask for public comment at this time. Is there any individuals that would like to comment on this change in the ordinance? And I believe it's 3 times I should ask. For the 3rd time, any public comment? Anybody wishes? Okay. Administrator Kleindall, did you receive any written comments?
Mr. Chair, thank you for asking. We have not received any written comments. We have published this as we were legally responsible to do. It was in our legal paper, and so I think we have met all the requirements. So after you close it, now then you would decide how you want to proceed.
Okay. At this point, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
Motion by Commissioner Gardner,
I'll
second
second
by Commissioner Emdek. Any further comments or discussion?
I just have, so basically what it was like, it'd be like a Thursday night, some kids are having a loud party or something, and maybe it's a whole weekend type party, and then before they would cite them for violation or go talk to them or whatever, and then they'd quiet down that night, but then maybe Saturday afternoon they'd start in again, and then they'd have to cite them again, so they couldn't ticket them.
The clock started all over
Yeah,
again.
so I've heard you tell me that before, but I just thought maybe it's a better thing for the public to understand, so the police don't have to keep coming back and giving them warning after warning, and so now they get a more firm warning, and they know now that they got 72 hours, so that it quiets it down for the whole weekend, basically.
Correct. So if you're at your house or on a boat and you got a warning saying the neighbors they can't hear themselves think because your music's too loud.
Yep.
You give them a warning on a Friday night, and then Sunday morning they're doing the same thing. Well, they have to start all over again.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. First of all, we do have a motion on the floor in a second to close the public comment part of the hearing. Any further comments about that? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Okay, any other comments about it, or questions about the ordinance? Commissioner Emdek.
So we're moving on this today, one way or the other, right?
Correct. That's your choice.
I would move to adopt the amended ordinance.
A motion by Commissioner Emdek to adopt the ordinance,
I'll second.
and a second by Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion?
One clarifying question. The
Please
only
proceed.
change here is the time, right?
Mr. Chair, that is correct. It goes from 24 hours to 72 hours.
Yep.
All the other part of the ordinance that was in place remains as is. It's just a one-word change from 24 to 72.
And I would take this opportunity to, Mr. Chair, sorry about that. May I?
Please
I'd
proceed.
take this opportunity to encourage lake users to respect the people along the shore, especially in that part of the lake that is in question here near Lone Tree.
We got a second.
That the homeowners and the people along the shore be treated with respect and honor the just good neighborly conduct. Yes.
Any further comments or questions or discussion? Hearing none, we have a motion and a second. I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you. Now I'd like to call on Kennewick County Public Works Director, Mr. Ordens. Good morning, Mel.
Morning, Mr. Chair. We have one bid letting this morning. It is for project SAP 034-630-014, and it is the Raceway replacement on the Nest Lake Dam. So with that, we'll open bids in alphabetical order. And for the record, Mr. Chair, we would review these bids and bring back a recommendation to the next meeting. We wouldn't recommend awarding today.
Thank you. Please proceed.
The first bid is Engineering and Construction Innovations Incorporated from Oakdale, Minnesota. Their bid is $1,217,950 and no cents. 1217950.00. That's it? One bid received, Mr. Chair.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it. So as you can see, it's a little over the estimate. So we'll review the bids, the bid, and then we'll discuss it at the next
Have
board meeting.
discussion next
Okay, thanks.
board meeting. Thank you. Thank you very much. At this point, I would like to call on Corey Smith. Good morning, Corey.
Good morning.
Just jumping ahead.
I guess.
Yeah, you figured that out. Thank you.
Alrighty. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Corey Smith. I'm the director out at Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District. Today I'm bringing forth Resolution 2022-29, approving the amendment to the 2019 wastewater facility plan. In 2019, we developed our first facility plan to lay out and identify future improvements needed. We used it for our phase 1 project that was completed last October. We also used it to help determine our eligibility for funding assistance with the Minnesota Public Facilities Authority. With our new NPDES permit that was issued this year, we have seen more stringent phosphorus limits. To meet these limits, upgrades will be needed to be met at the wastewater treatment plant. The next phase improvements will be phase 2, which will address this phosphorus issue. The next step in the process will be to update the facility plan, which is the amendment that you have. From there, we will send it to the PCA, and then it will also be used to determine grant eligibility. And with this next project, there is a potential for $5 million in grant. On May 23rd, the Glacial Lake Sanitary Sewer Commission recommended forwarding this to the county board. So I guess the recommendation today would be to adopt Resolution 2022-29, approving the facility plan amendment and make application for funding.
Mr. Chair, I would move on Resolution 2022-29.
A motion by Commissioner Emdek and a second by
I'll
Commissioner
second.
Gardner to move forward with resolution number 2022-29. Any further questions or comments of Mr. Smith? Well, you gave us plenty of material to read.
Yeah.
It's all pretty straightforward, and it's very important.
All really interesting, riveting stuff too.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I hear no further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much. At this point, I'd like to call on Candy Lake County Sheriff, Mr. Holeen. Good morning. And the item we have you up next for is your grant that you want us to discuss and have an agreement.
All right, good morning. What you'll see before you is the federal and state grant for water safety program, which allows us to use the grant dollars towards enforcement with personnel, as well as supplies and equipment expenses that come along with this program. By state statute, the sheriff's office is responsible for the safety of our waters. The dollar amounts on the grants is down about $3,000 from last year. So there is a slight difference as to what you've used to seeing before in the past, and this is an annual thing that we bring before the county board for your approval and signature from the county chair. So as far as state grant, it's $4,500, and when you look at the federal grant, it's $15,544. And I field any questions if you have any. Otherwise, it'll be up to you to make a motion to approve it and accept it.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Sheriff, maybe you can explain what you use the dollars for, so the public watching knows what
Yes.
you're using the dollars.
So when you look at the dollars that is used, primarily the money is used for the expenses in overtime that we pay our staff to patrol the waters within Kanuai County. So this dollar amount is primarily earmarked for that, as well as like the danger buoys, navigational buoys, et cetera. So some of that money is used for the replacement, repairs of those items that you'll see before you. So that's what it's primarily spent on. So as part of these grants, it has to be paid in overtime dollars. It cannot be straight time officer pay, even though we assign 2 officers in the summer for that straight time pay.
Commissioner Nissen.
I just have since you're down a little bit, 3,000, are you going to cut services or are you going to find money somewhere else to cover that overtime?
That will still be covered. Generally speaking, we post enough overtime shifts and they're not always filled, whether it's manpower or people just not wanting to take the overtime. Okay. So it is designed to be a supplement to what we have already.
All right.
Any further questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move on the agreement.
And I'll second.
A motion by Commissioner Gardner, second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much.
You need him to sign copy?
You want- Sure, I'll get to you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, on the agenda, I'd like to step back to Mr. Odens. Please proceed. We're kind of jumping around our agenda here because of people
That's all right.
not being here on time, but please
Mr.
proceed.
Chair, yep, Mr. Chair, members of the board, what you have in front of you is it's an agreement with, it's a local road improvement program agreement with the state of Minnesota. It's, this money is bond money that they fund for, it's access for locals to do improvements. In our case, we're doing County Road 2 south of Howick. We got $775,000 in total. And they're allowing us to do $500,000 this year to do the grading, and then we'll amend this agreement and then do the next $275,000 next year to pave it. So we're going to be able to utilize all the money versus give some back at the end of this year. So with that in mind, it's the way we sign these agreements is by resolution. So it's my recommendation to execute resolution 2022-28 that allows the chair and administrator to sign the local road improvement resolution and agreement on behalf of the county.
So move, Mr. Chair.
A motion by Commissioner Endek, second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further discussion or comment?
Just a point of clarification.
proceed.
You referred to it as County Road 2, that's the realignment of,
I'm correct, I'm sorry, yeah, it's currently County Road 106, and with the South Gap project, maybe, I don't know if, Larry, you want to maybe pop it up on the screen
Yeah,
quick?
would you? I see it on our screen, but people who are live streaming this will not be able to.
And just a little more background, we have the project's been let.
Yeah, there.
And we got good bids on it, and it's, our pre-construction meeting is gonna be on this Thursday. So, yeah, there you go, that's probably good enough.
Oh, sorry, I hit it before you said.
So just to orientate you, this is the community of Howick, right here. Here is Highway 23. And next year, 2023, they're going to start construction of this section of road. And so what we did as a county board and working with the partners at the state, we took our current, they wanted to take County Road 2 across right here. This is the Regal Road. And they want to take County Road 2, and then they ended it right there, just on the south. And then they worked with us to fund it's 106, but we're going to make it to future County Road 2 that goes, and then it connects by the turkey barns just south of Howick, if that kind of mentally orientates you with where we are.
Sure.
And so what we'll be doing is we'll be grading it this year for in the neighborhood of $500,000. And then next year, we'll pave the road, and then coincidentally, it will be ready for when they do 23 for local traffic. So we had to construct it with the 23 to kind of mesh it in with their work. So that's it. That's the agreement. That's what the agreement's going to cover. It's a 0.8 tenths of a mile. So it's a relatively short. Midwest Contracting out of Marshall, Minnesota is the contractor. And once again, we have a pre-construction meeting on Thursday. And they intend to start construction after the 4th of July.
I have one more quick
That's what I was
question.
going to
Please
ask you.
proceed.
The yellow portion of that, when you're showing the construction, that's going to be done by the contractor on Highway 23,
Correct, yes. Yeah, we don't need to, maybe. Anything on 23 is done. The only thing that was going to be done on ours is the piece of 106. It's a relatively clean piece of road there.
Yeah, and I asked the question because I see that they realign County Road 2 slightly as it hits 23 on the north side of 23.
But
the state is going to be realigning, they're going to square that off, which is,
Correct, yep. And,
but that's not our deal, that's their.
right, so we're gonna end, one of us has to end in space and we're gonna do it first. But they will connect, so yeah. So it's turning out, there was a little angst involved before we got the money, I will admit, because we're gonna be about $1 million short, based on their project. But then, the bonding money came through, the LRIP money came through, and they usually do, it usually does if you work with your partners, but you gotta stay on top of it. So we got it, we're gonna start work after the 4th, and we should be done by October.
Sounds awesome. Just for the audience information too, so a lot of these projects, we move through them really pretty fast, but this is not new information.
Right.
Mr. Oden's been talking about this project for some time, but each time we get narrowed down or a little bit, tweak it a little bit more different.
A little more refined, yep.
That's looking
So
good. Thank you.
we'll leave it gravel over the winter,
Okay.
like we usually do, and then pave it before the 4th of July next year.
Okay, so we have this motion in front of us and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, I'll get those to you later. Next, I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindahl, and you have some discussion about some goals and
Yes, Mr. Chair.
resolution
Each
number
year,
20.
for the last,
Okay.
over a decade now, we're coming before you each year to present the performance goals. Before you is Resolution 2022-30. I'll read the resolution, then I'll go and talk about the goals a little bit, but for the public who is watching, the resolution will kind of explain why we're doing what we're doing. So this resolution, it benefits the Canada County for participating in the Minnesota Council of Local Results and Innovation, comprehensive performance measures programs as outlined in Minnesota Statute 6.91, and includes the eligibility for reimbursement set by state statute. We're one of the few counties and cities that continue to do this. We don't do it for the reimbursement. The reimbursement is less than $10,000, but I think it kind of sets a standard for our citizens of what we do every year and what we're been working on. So it says, whereas any county participating in a comprehensive performance measure program is exempt from levy limits for taxes if levy limits were put in effect by the state legislatures. When I first started my career, levy limits were quite common. And for those who are watching, what levy limits do is it sets what the max amount that you can go up on your levy based on where things are at. Well, if you're a growing county, that can kind of handcuff you in what you do. Kennewick County Board has adopted and implemented at least 10 of the performance measures as developed by the Council on Local Results and Innovation, and a system to use this information to help plan, budget, and manage and evaluate programs and process for optimal future outcomes. And now therefore, let it be resolved that Kennewick County will continue to report the results of performance measures to its citizens by the end of the year through publications, direct mailing, posting on the county website, or through public hearings at which the budget and levies will be discussed and the public are allowed. And then it goes on to say that Kennewick County will submit this report to the Office of State Auditors and the actual performance measures. And I'll go all through, kind of tell you some of the areas that we've been measuring. We really measure 10 areas, and the 10 areas are public safety, public works, public health and social services. Goes on to our records, property evaluations, assessments, elections, veteran services, and environment. So under our public safety, one of the things that we measure and we report back to the state is our Tier 1 and Tier 2 crimes. And it kind of shows the results where we're at each year. And as you see in reports, this year was the first year that we used a new system called the National Incident-Based Reporting System. This will create a new baseline for years going forward. So this year, the data is a little different because we're using that new data, trying to compare apples and oranges. But basically, what we're trying to measure, Group A and Group B are crimes reports. They're formerly known as Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. And the idea was to see how we were doing. In 2021, the Kansas County Sheriff's Office reported 677 Group 1 offenses compared to 528 Group A crimes in 2020. We had 146 Part 2 crimes compared to 330 in 2020. So went down in the one area and went up in the other. The next area was Public Works, and we were looking at average bridge ratings, and the goal is to maintain a county bridge in inspection condition, achieves the standards defined by the Minnesota State rules. The outcome, the Kansas County average local bridge planning index is 89.5, and we did 121 bridge inspections in the county, which included 2 township bridges. And they came out, the ratings were at 89.5. Under public health and social services, this is always an interesting one. And looking at first measure, we look at general life expectancy. Performance, our goal is to increase life expectancy in Kansas County. In Minnesota, the overall life expectancy is 81 years, 0.5, or second, Hawaii is at 81.3. So that's the average life expectancy in Minnesota. In Kansas County, that's 79 years. For males, it's 78.67. For females, it's 83.34. In Minnesota and in Kansas County, it's 78.9 for males and 83.37 for females. So kind of gives you an idea. The clock is ticking. The next one is under performance is tobacco and alcohol use, and the goal is to decrease alcohol and tobacco consumption in Kansas County. The outcome in Kansas County adult tobacco use in currently smoke is 19%, which is right in the line with Minnesota's average of 16%. Kansas County adult alcohol use, heavy alcohol use in binge drinking is at 22%, which is slightly below Minnesota's average of 23%. And Kansas County ranks 23rd out of 87 counties in Minnesota for health behavior measures. However, we rank 28th of 87 for health outcomes. The next area we're measuring is the workforce participation under AMFIP and diversion work program. The goal is to increase the participation in the programs, and there's a list of the outcomes that were listed. In January 2021, we started at 17%, and by December of 2021, we're at 26%. Property tax and evaluations, and I think Julie Cockburner and Val Sabor and Mark have all been here at the board and kind of talking about our performance and records and assessments, kind of give you an update, so kind of good timing, but the goal is to maintain an acceptable ratio of between 90 and 105% for assessments, and you'll need to remember that as we got Board of Equalization, and that's the assessor when they're assessing properties, that's the guidelines that kind of stay between. Currently in 2021, residential are at 93.2%, agriculture, bare land is 97.77%, commercial we're at 99.6%, and agriculture improved and unimproved we're at 98.2%. Performance measures, the turnaround time for recording, indexing, and recording real estate documents. It was one of the things we measured. Our goal, we meet the Minnesota statute. We have our documents recorded and real estate documents within the 10 business days. And we're at 90, the goal is 90% of the time. We're at 99.48. I mean, it's fabulous. I mean, you think about that turnaround time in that 10-day period. I mean, that's really awesome. The eighth thing we measure is election accuracy. Performance goals, we want 100% accuracy. Outcomes in Kennewick County. Kennewick County had 100% accuracy of ballots counted during its post-election audit of all applicants in 2021. Under veteran services is the ninth area we measure, and
Well, first off, Mr. Kleindl, I'd like to say that the board would hope that we can continue 100% as we
Yeah.
move forward in this coming year. Thank you. Please proceed.
thank you. Next one is veteran services. And the goal is the amount of dollars that you bring in for your veterans into the county. The goal is to increase the amount of dollars brought into the county for veterans benefits. The goal of the county is to continue advertising and receiving training on all new and existing VA benefits. The total veteran population continues to decrease due to aging. However, this means more nursing home and assisted living pensions needed for living in the home and needed for their spouses. We have worked very closely with all the homes in Kennewick County to ensure they are asking individuals if they are in need for either themselves as a veteran or their spouse or widow. The total veteran population is 2,494 according to the VA stats. Total dollars brought into the county for VA benefits is $27,754,000. The last one is environmental. It's our 10th area. And the amount of household hazardous waste and electronics collected. The goal of the county is to reduce the level of household hazardous waste streams and educate the public and businesses of proper disposal of hazardous waste. The goal for the county is to provide opportunities for the residents of the county for the management of electronics. So in 2021, our regional household hazardous waste program in Kennewick County collected and properly disposed of approximately 5,772 gallons of latex paint, 2,495 gallons of oil-based paint, 1,540 gallons of fuel, lab packed materials, 14,086 pounds, aerosols, we collected 4,332 pounds, egg pesticides, 8,582 pounds. We recycled, that means people came in and picked up and reused. Paint exchange, latex, we used or gave out 234 gallons, oil-based paints, 133 gallons, aerosols, 392 pounds, flammable liquids, 64 gallons, and other items, around 509 items. And electronics collected in the Southwest was 105 pounds, 105,070 pounds.
Wow.
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to submit this to the state auditors and permission to proceed.
Okay.
I'll move on 2022-30.
I'll
Commissioner
second that.
Nissen made a motion to move on 2022-30 and seconded by Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussions? Commissioner
Just a
Nissen?
quick, I don't know if I missed it or what, can you define grade, group A crimes versus group B crimes?
So there used to be part one and part two. Part one is, I'm looking at Shane, but part,
That's the more serious crimes, includes murder, rape, robbery, burglary,
One or
and
B?
assault.
B.
Is one or A.
One, okay.
Okay.
And
I
then,
was just thought maybe the public might want to
Yeah.
have that too. so.
and then two is less serious crimes, but that can include weapons and drug offenses and property crimes.
So,
Thank you.
yes. Okay. Any further questions of Administrator Kleindl? We have a motion, we have a second. I will call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much. A
And-
lot of details in
yeah, and I
there,
hope the
good
board.
details.
Yeah, and I hope the board continues this. This is a choice. Again, this is a voluntary thing. You don't have to do it. You don't do it for the reimbursement because it's probably costs us more in administrative cost to send it in and process it than it does. But it kind of gives a baseline of where we're at. And most of these reports that I'm reporting on today, the department heads have to report already to the state. And so it's data that we're already kind of putting together, It just helps us to put it in a format to go for it, but that'll be your choice.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we go through this fairly fast, but we have to because of our agenda. But for the public, it is online, and you can read this in more detail and come back and look
Yes.
at it. It's very
Good point.
reference points.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to call on Candy County Health and Human Services Director, Jenny Lippert. Good morning, Jenny. And you're here for the second procurement part, right?
Yes, our third and final one. So
Or third, okay.
good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Jenny Lippert, Health and Human Services Director. Today I am here with a resolution for Candy County's recommendation on the request for proposal for health plans that provide healthcare services to recipients of the Children's and Families Services in Candy County. So in your board packets, you have Resolution 2022-31, and I will read that resolution now. Whereas the Minnesota Department of Human Services has published a request for proposals to provide healthcare services to recipients of families and children in 80 Minnesota counties, including Candy County. And whereas the Minnesota Department of Human Services has requested county evaluations and recommendations regarding the request for proposals from each respective county. And whereas Prime West, Blue Plus, Medica, UCare, and United Healthcare submitted proposals to provide managed healthcare services in Candy County. And whereas representatives of Candy County Health and Human Services have reviewed and evaluated proposals. And whereas Prime West's proposal was found to be far superior than the others in meeting our needs based on known provider partnerships in managing care and accountability for health, quality, and consumer satisfaction. Candy County believes consistency in managed care is better for the people we serve and believes that single plan is better for all entities involved in the process. Considering the differences in scores, Candy County believes that the disparity in scores indicate that only one plan should serve the population in Candy County in the way that individuals deserve. Therefore, be it resolved that Candy County Board of Commissioners supports the recommendation of the Candy County Health and Human Services Director approving Prime West as the one and only managed care organization that should provide managed healthcare services for families and children's medical assistance recipients in Candy County. Therefore, be it resolved that the Candy County Board of Commissioners supports the recommendation of the Candy County Health and Human Services Director approving Prime West and Blue Plus for the Minnesota Care recipients as required by the Affordable Care Act. Therefore, be it further resolved that the Candy County Board of Commissioners believes that single plan arrangements in rural counties does enhance integration and coordination of healthcare services, resulting in cost savings.
Commissioner Nissen.
I will move Resolution 2022-31.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen and a
I'll
second
second that.
by Commissioner Emdek. Any further comments or discussion?
Just maybe a little bit about where we're at on.
Yes, okay.
Thank you.
I think she was ready to prepare that. Thank you.
Or maybe-
Question.
Yeah, you guys.
The procurement procedure that the state would like us to use is opposed to what we're recommending. Prime West is by far the most accepted in the counties it serves very happily. We're trying to, so that there's a lawsuit going on right now, and so we'll have to wait and see just how that turns out. They may not allow us to do this, even though it's clearly in statute, and so more to come on that. And Jenny.
I would just like to add this for information for the public too, that Commissioner Nissen is the board representative on Prime West Healthcare Board. So thank you for you're doing an excellent job staying on top of that. Please proceed.
Yes, so Mr. Chair and members of the board, again, I want to give you an update that we have heard from the Minnesota Department of Human Services, and we've had conversations with them regarding our prior two proposals that I brought forward, the SNBC product and the MSHO MSC Plus. And it's not looking very favorable that DHS will be listening to our recommendations on which health plans would best fit our county's needs and serve our populations. Once I have additional information to share, I will definitely bring that back to all of you. But I guess my question for you today, this morning, would be that in the circumstance that we do not agree with the awarded health plans that we would receive from the Minnesota Department of Human Services, would you give myself or a representative of the agency the authority to entertain into mediation or an appeal process? Oftentimes, it's a pretty quick, short turnaround to let DHS know if we don't agree with the awarded health plans. And so I would ask that of you today once I receive that information if it's something we don't agree with.
It's my understanding you have until June 10th to do that. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move the request of staff.
We have a,
Oh, I'm sorry,
we
you're right.
should, we should
Yeah,
do motion
thank
on
you.
one thing
Yeah.
and then
Move
go
on, yeah.
before you make two motions.
Good catch, thank you.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll call for, we already got the motion in a second.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, pass unanimously. Okay.
Now you can-
And now I will move the request of staff to enter into mediation.
Okay, thank you,
And I will
Commissioner
second
Gardner, and a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further discussion other than, I'm glad you brought that forward because you only got a few days to deal with that and more work for you. Thank you for all you're doing on this. Okay, we have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, pass unanimously. Thank you.
You get that, Mary?
It was
Okay.
him, Dick. Or it was him.
Roger.
Roger.
Okay, now I'd like to call on Mr. Odens. Please.
Chair, members of the board, I've got two items. The first item is going to be the last year's Bituminous paving work. We did 2 on the east side of the county. We did 8 through Lake Lillian. We did 5 going up by the college. We did the little 15 on the southwest part of town, and we did a township road, then we did the Eastern Irving Road on Highway 40 east of New London. But with that, everything is good. The recommendation to you today is to accept the project and authorize final payment in the amount of $25,561.83. And that represents the 1% retainage that we hold until all the grass is established and all the punch list items are done. So that's my recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Nissen,
I'll make that motion.
motion to approve the final payments. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Anderson seconds it. Any further discussion or comments? Did this follow the timeline then? It just seemed like we just were discussing about this being done and all of a sudden we got it all completed. That's,
Well, this was last year's work.
Oh,
This is-
okay,
this-
all right.
Well, on that note, we're a long ways toward getting this year's work done too. We've had some
Okay.
good weather and so yeah, we're paving on 4 right now.
okay,
We'll be paving, a lot of work's going on right now.
sounds that way. Thank you very much.
County Road 1, does that work start this year?
We paved,
I'm going from 40 up to 9.
yeah, that'll start this year, correct. Yep. So what we paved Prensburg already, we're paving 4, we're paving 41 by the radio station road.
Yep.
So, yeah. we'll be-
44 as well.
And what's that?
44 is good.
Yeah, 44, yeah, forgot about that, that's paved. I just did that a few weeks ago.
Okay, as long
So
as-
yeah, we're getting this year's work done early.
Okay,
It's
thank you.
unusual.
Great,
So
that's good to hear.
This was Central Specialties work from last year. And the problem that we run into, I shouldn't say we run into, but when there's a lot of subs, there's a lot of Department of Revenue forms that need to be filled out and returned. And sometimes that winter work doesn't happen in the winter, like perhaps it should, and so there's sometimes a little delay on some of the subs returning your revenue forms. So we've got them all. We're happy. We're willing to accept the project and
Okay,
authorize.
quick question, we're slightly getting off track here. On County Road 41, the fairgrounds and the radio station. Is that progressing as expected?
It's progressing very well. They completed paving on Saturday. We're doing top soil work and seeding yesterday and today, or today and a little bit finish up tomorrow, and then the stripers will be in hopefully tomorrow, and then hopefully we can open it up Thursday. Our goal is to get it open before the races, is really what our goal is.
Yeah, you gotta get into the races.
Well, we want to do that because it does kind of congest that residential neighborhood in the back door of the
Yeah.
fairgrounds, and it's all paved, but it's easier to keep them out when we're backing skid loaders up and people walking around and raking but we feel good about it. Yeah, they had 20 working days and they'll be under their time frame.
Good, all right. We have a motion and a second before us. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, pass unanimously. And you got another item, please.
Yeah, and honestly, this is another final, this is a striping contract, a maintenance striping contract. We always do an agreement through the board, and this is actually 2020, and it's actually to AAA striping. There was a little bit of, I'll admit, it's 2020, so AAA got bought out by Sir Lancelot, and Sir Lancelot then got our striping this year, and they were kind of doing the books, and they found out that we never issued final payment for 2020, just to be completely transparent here. So there was no issues other than the fact that there was a little glitch in the whole business operation. So it's our recommendation to accept the project and authorize final payment in the amount of $4,729.40 to AAA Striping, which is now bought out by Sir Lancelot.
So move. A motion by Commissioner Gardner, a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Anderson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's take a break now, Mark.
Yeah. I think this might be a good time where we're actually moving our agenda ahead quite well, and we'll just take a short recess for about 10 minutes. Thank you.
Now I gotta find my.
I hereby call the Candiota County Board of Commissioners back in session. Now I'd like to call on Mr. Mark Thompson, and you have 3 items for us, the Candiota County Auditor and Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the board. First item we have is the authorization of the sale of county-owned land. This is Resolution 2022-32, and I have a map showing the parcel.
That up there? I'll zoom in once you get it
See
set,
which
Mark.
way is up and down here.
And maybe explain where that is located.
Yeah, this is on County Road 9. The county reconstructed, or relocated, I should say, County Road 9 going around Eagle Lake. And this is on the northeast side of number 9.
Oh, mine.
And it's parcel 18,492,0035. It was, the Public Works purchased this land when they redid County Road 9. So the county has no use for it at this point now, and there is some interest in this parcel, and of course, we try to get these properties back on the tax rolls. So I have a resolution 2022-32 asking the county board to authorize the sale of this land, and what's required is we have to publish it in the paper 3 consecutive weeks. So that'll be done the next 3 weeks, and then I'm hoping to come back here July 5th. I believe July 5th is a board meeting, and then we will open the bids. So,
Mr. Chair.
Administrator Kleindl, please.
This is the second advertising for this year property. We did a group of properties, I believe in 2018, which at that time, I think 4 of the 5 sold, and this one did not. We were going to bring it back on, and we didn't at that time, so this is appropriate time to do this. As Mark stated, one of our goals has been, once we get tax for land, to try to get back out there on the tax rolls as quick as possible. So I support this very much.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, before
Commissioner Indeck.
well, I'll go ahead and move on resolution
Okay.
2022.
Okay, we have a motion to move on resolution 20.
I'll second that.
22-32, right? Yep. And a second by Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Indeck, you had a
Yes,
comment
thank
or
you,
a
Mr.
question?
Chair. So you said it's going to be sealed bids?
yes.
Has this been appraised?
Well,
Assessed.
it's been
Don't we usually appraise the county properties?
well, we usually have the assessor do it, and so they're going to put the same dollar amount on that they have it on the. It's listed for $26,000. It's assessed for $26,400 currently. That's what it's assessed for. That's what it's on the property tax rolls for. And we usually go through the assessor to look at these properties and to assess them, and I can't believe she would change it. So the minimum bid is the assessed value, that we have to have at least that much for it.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please proceed.
It seems like on past tax forfeited parcels, we've been asked to
Yep.
help put an appraised value on that, because that seems like a really, really low number.
Yeah, so you're talking tax forfeited, and this
Different deal?
is county
Okay,
owned,
thank
so it's separate. Yeah.
Thanks for clearing that up for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, this was land obtained from a road project, and it's the surplus land from that project.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? I did have a question. We're talking about this property, 0035. Are there other properties we still own there then? And which ones are they?
I don't believe in that stretch, but we do own that. If
All right, we're back up.
back on there once.
So is this the last of the group then? I guess my question.
In that area, we've got more potential land
Oh, yes, but in this one spot.
in this one spot. So,
Show that again, Mark, please.
yep. So 18,492,0035. We also own this particular piece right here, but this is actually right of way.
Oh.
Most of the time, we have an easement to the right of way, but since we actually own this parcel, we're actually owning the easement, or owning the right-of-way, not the easement. The county actually owns the right-of-way. So that'll remain. It's treated the same way as if we just had an easement to the right-of-way. So again, this is the parcel that's for sale.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments from anyone? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of resolution number 2022-32, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, passed unanimously. Thank you. Next, you have resolution number 2022-33 concerning a ballot board.
Yep. Resolution 2022-33, we're required to have the county board by resolution established an absentee/mail ballot board, and that's what resolution 33 is. It states that we have to have party balance when we have judges go through the absentee ballots to approve them, accept them. So that's really what that's all about.
Can you explain a little bit more in detail about that?
Well, it has to do with absentee voting and mail ballots. They're sent in to us, they're mailed to us, or they come in person and they vote. We have to have judges from both major parties. Actually, there's 4 major parties, so we have to have 2 judges from one of those 4 majors, each one from one of those 4 major parties. They sit down and they go through the signature envelope to make sure that everything's in order. Signatures match the application, etc. And of course, we have to, like I said, we have the party balance. That's the most critical thing.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Nissen.
I'll move that, that we 2022-33. The wording in here is what I think some of the folks gathered here today we're looking for.
Sure.
That we have equal balance.
Okay.
So.
Commissioner Gardner?
I will second.
And a second by Commissioner Gardner. Okay. Any further discussion or comments from anybody? Your questions for Mark?
If I could follow up for just a moment. This is essentially the same resolution that we do every 2 years. So this is nothing new.
Nothing new, no. I did want to make a comment, maybe some people, when I mentioned there's 4 major political parties, we do have 4 major parties now. A lot of people aren't aware of that. We have the Republican Democratic Party, legalized marijuana now, and then grassroots.
What was Jesse one?
Cannabis, legal cannabis party. So we have.
They're major parties?
Yeah. We have, as a lot of people refer to them as the pot parties, we have two of those parties considered major parties now. So
That answered my question. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Commissioner Anderson?
I just got one comment, and I don't know if it really fits in here, but when I was a township supervisor, you always got tagged. You were the election judge too, so we had to go through election judge training, and I just want to say the most nervous I ever was when we brought in the ballots that night on election night or primary night, just to make sure did we get everything right, because we got grilled pretty good, and usually we'd pull through. Once in a while we'd make a mistake, and I was like, so then we'd have to figure it out, but yeah, we did good, and you guys do a real good job on election.
thank you, and
To say that.
it's nice to have a couple members of the board that have served as election judges. I won't say who they are, but there's been a few of them on there that have served as election judges, and you know what it takes.
Yep.
I think that they do an excellent job. I was also an election judge several times. I had election judge, and you tear off the tape, make sure you tear it in the right spot, or you get in trouble with Mark.
Yep.
No, but they handle really well. So, any other comments about the board? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Okay, the next item on the agenda is actually still talking about the election and establishing an absentee. Oh, that's the board. Ballot box discussion. That's what we're going to.
Yeah, isn't that something? Where it's what is it? What is today? June 7th, and we're talking about elections already. Yeah, but Yeah, absentee voting starts here June 24th already, so.
Yeah.
The next item, as Chairman mentioned, was I'd like to discuss with the board the issue of a ballot drop box that we currently, in 2020, we had available. I'll start out with, and I think you'll see it on the agenda, my recommendation, again, we're not mandated to have a drop box, and my recommendation is to not continue with the drop box. Give you a little history. The first time we used it, as I mentioned, was back in 2020. And again, the reason for the use of the ballot drop box in 2020 was, as you all know, COVID-19, was the pandemic was in full-fledged. Couple things here. The county office building was closed for a short time during that year. So that's another reason we had the drop box, so people could come and drop off their ballot. That was another reason to have it. Secondly, when we did reopen, safety reasons. A lot of people didn't want to step inside the building, so we continued it, and we looked at it as kind of a not only a convenience but a safety issue. So today we're somewhat back to normal, meaning that we're open, pretty much back to normal as far as business operations downtown. People can come in now and actually hand their ballots to the staff. So, we don't need that drop box. They can actually walk in and hand it to us. And the other thing, having a drop box, having one only creates the possibility of possible conflict. So why not just avoid that? And so that's my recommendation, to not have a ballot drop box.
Mr. Thompson, thank you for bringing this forward. As some people may know, I think it's important that the elected officials do weigh in on this decision.
Yes. Again, that's just my recommendation.
Yes, and I appreciate that very much. And I would like to call on Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
anybody
Chair.
else who has comments, so give it a chance.
I would move the recommendation of staff.
Okay. We have a motion?
Just a question.
Yes. I'm not sure we need a vote.
Yeah, I
on
was
this,
gonna
do we?
say,
We don't necessarily need a vote, but if we.
probably doesn't-
No, it's for information
hurt.
only. I just wanted the board to weigh in on this, give me a little direction,
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would just say it makes sense. Let's just go ahead and do it.
Just stop it.
Stop it, yeah. We can
If
mail
that's
it,
all we need,
can
I'll
drop
withdraw the motion.
You're looking to withdraw the motion?
I just want, when you have something like this, there's a lot of controversy, and the perception is that, this leads to a lot, potential for cheating and different things. And I know you guys what happens is when you receive a ballot, when you guys get one, absentee ballot, you got a procedure that you follow, and signatures have to match the application and all that. So people can't just, they could try to dump a bunch that they might have printed or whatever in there, but if it doesn't match up with your procedure, then they get thrown out is what I'm assuming. And so, but.
or they're spoiled and we issue a new one, so.
Yeah,
They have
the
another
person has
chance,
to request it or whatever. But anyway, so, but the perception is that there's a lot of bad things that can potentially happen with these drop boxes, and so it's best that we just avoid that. And if we're not mandated to do it, it's time to just end it. So I'm happy that was your recommendation.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Any further questions, comments?
I just,
Commissioner Nissen?
the current drop box that we use for licensing and other things, commissioner expenses, I dropped mine in there.
Yep.
Is that going to stay, or is?
Yes.
Okay, and how are you going to keep people from dropping ballots in there?
Yeah, well, right, and that's the one that we used 2 years ago. So we're going to have to really do a good job on signage, and hopefully it's public.
So you're going to have a sign on that,
Yes.
this is not
Yeah.
for ballots or something like that?
Yep, and hopefully the The newspaper will get the information out that we do not have a drop box. But no, we will definitely put
ballots.
signage.
For ballots.
For ballots, yeah.
Yeah.
Drop,
You have a drop box for other
yes,
stuff.
a
but
ballot
not-
drop box.
That works well.
Thank you for correcting me on that, yeah. So,
Mr. Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, I assume that when you do that signage, you'll do that in multiple languges to
We can,
ensure.
yes, we can
Yeah,
do that.
I think
That's
that would be.
I didn't think about that,
strong-
but that's a good idea.
strong idea, given the diversity of our county. And I had something else, but it's gone, so go ahead.
Mr. Glendale?
I've lost my train of thought.
Oh, okay.
I can't
going
help
around.
you there either.
Yeah, it's contagious.
I just have one question.
Mr. Enda.
And perhaps you have a policy or don't, but what if somebody does drop a ballot in that drop box?
well, if somebody would drop one in there, we obviously would see it.
Yeah.
We would actually take that ballot in, we would spoil the ballot, call the person and tell them,
So they don't lose their vote.
yeah, let them know they have to cast another ballot, but we would spoil the one that was in there, so.
Excellent.
Administrator Kleindahl?
Mr. Chair, how they have early voting now,
7 days prior,
we're-
yes.
We're not, people that have the opportunity to get their vote in if they can't vote on the day of the election. The early voting process has been, made it more convenient for people to vote.
Yeah, and if the public doesn't know what that is 7 days prior to the election, they can come, they call it direct balloting. The technical term is direct balloting. It's just like early voting, but they can come down to the auditor's office the week before the election. They walk in, they fill out the application for an absentee ballot, but they don't need to complete all the envelopes. It's just the application, we hand the ballot to them, they go in the back room, like they're in a polling place, they vote, they come back, and they feed it through the machine. So, and another thing I want to clarify is votes are not counted until after 8 o'clock on election night. So even though they feed it through that machine, we have no idea of what the vote is, what the tally is, because the only time you can tell that is when you close the machine. And we don't do that until after 8 o'clock.
Mr. Gardner?
I remembered it now. Just a point of process. Do we need to do anything with the action that we took the previous meeting regarding the grant application?
No.
Or you just handle that
Yep.
administratively?
Yeah, well, you approved the application, but if we don't apply, and basically in this instance, we had to spend the money first and then turn it into the state to get the grant money. Well, if we don't spend anything, we just won't turn anything in. And I just wanted to follow that procedure because there's a deadline, and I wanted to get ahead of the game, and at least that option was there.
Yep, understood. And I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any action we needed to take.
No.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments before we proceed on?
So then your recommendation is to, you agree with me, just not to have discontinue the ballot drop box?
I sense there's no
That is,
commissioner.
I think,
We're all
unanimous.
on board together. So
Okay, real good. Thank you. That's what I was
call it
after.
unanimous, and I think it has been recommended to us too. And so
Thank you.
I appreciate all the feedback from other people and maybe some understanding about some of this. But my understanding as well, just one last comment about encouraging people to vote early.
Mm-hmm.
And we did that before because of COVID and all that, but it's worked out so well in the past to have that. It was less stress on and time on the election judges.
Yeah, so I'll mention it again. Absentee voting actually starts June 24th, meaning they can vote then. They have to vote absentee, but they can start voting then.
And that's a primary.
That's for the primary.
That's for the primary, correct. Yep, yep, exactly. So,
I
Thank you.
just like to weigh in on that early voting, that it's getting carried away. The primary is until August, correct?
Yep.
Here we're voting in
August
June.
9th.
The candidates, by and large, haven't even had a chance to get out and convince people that they're the right person. So, and we can't do anything about that. That's all statute from above, but it doesn't make any sense to me. And so I thought I'd just say that.
Along that same line, I don't think you can put your signs up until a
No,
day
there's
after
something
the-
about the sign
Yeah,
law, too,
yeah,
that,
so you really can't be out there campaigning in that aspect. neither.
Yeah, we have a date on that. I don't have that handy, but.
Yeah, I think 20.
I
Right
think
before
it's
the-
after filing ends.
Yeah.
There, yeah,
When-
you probably,
Basically, so after May
probably right.
31st, I think you could start putting up signs.
No, I don't think
Filing
so.
closes, yeah.
I don't think you
I
can
don't
put up
know.
the yard sign until right before the,
Oh, maybe there's a
After
time
test.
to, yeah, maybe there is a, yeah, there
yeah,
could
you
be.
can campaign, but you can't put a
Okay.
yard sign up.
Okay, that could
If anybody has any question on when they can put up signs, call me. I can look it up. I get all
We
these
got
dates
the
and I just don't
booklet,
have it
we can
handy.
look as well, so.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time, and we have to move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. At this point, I'd change the order just slightly one more time. We're kind of jumping around in the agenda, but I would like to call on Kansas County Sheriff, Mr. Holeen, and you had a quick thing for us.
Yes. So second agenda item for you, I addressed it a little bit in the first one. We talked about the federal one first, now we're going to talk about the state one. The state grant for the extra patrols and overtimes is the $4,500 versus the federal side of it. That is, again, a supplemental grant for enforcement as well as equipment and materials for the water safety program at the sheriff's office. And if you
Okay.
got any questions, I'll yield those at this time.
Any questions or comments? Otherwise, entertain a motion.
I would move on that, Mr.
And I will
Chair.
second.
And a second, a motion by Commissioner Gardner, a second by Commissioner Nissen. Any further questions or comments? You kind of covered some of that, so thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Now I would like to call on Kansas County Human Resource Director, Connie Mort. Good morning, Connie.
Morning, Connie.
You got some proposals for us here, I understand?
I do. Just like to introduce myself again. I'm Connie Mort. I'm the Human Resources Director here at Candy, Ohio County. And today I bring before the board proposals from 3 different administrative search firms. We will be looking for a replacement for our county administrator, Larry Kleindl, who has announced his intention to retire. And we will be undergoing that search momentarily. Actually, we would like to start it very soon. We would like to have some overlap with our new person that we find for administrator while Mr. Kleindl is still here, so that there would be some training that could take place as well. All right, any questions before we get started? I think everyone had in their board packet the packets of information from the 3 different search firms that we had asked for requests for proposals from. One was the DDA Human Resources Incorporated. It's a David Drown Associates company out of St. Bonifacia, Minnesota. There was another that was GovHR, and that is a government search firm that is out of Northbrook, Illinois. And the third was Baker Tilly. Baker Tilly is an all-service firm that has an office in St. Paul as well. So those are the 3 search firms that we had. Each of the search firms presented a very comprehensive packet of information, including how they would communicate with the county or how they would communicate with our search committee or the point person, which would more than likely be myself. So the communications would run through me. And each one of the search firms had a different timeline for communications. So some would be more apt to be on site more often. Some would be doing more online or telephone conversations or email. All of them would be doing those types of communications as well. Each one of the proposals gave us a timeline. I feel that some of the proposals were a little bit more detailed than the others, but the timeline that we had gotten for the majority of them was 14 to 16 weeks until we were ready to have a hire. So we were looking at having this person potentially being on board by November if they were having to give a notice of possibly 60-day notice to their current employer. That was putting that time frame into it as well. We're looking at having, in any one of these search firms, having a viable candidate that we want to make an offer to by September. So some of the points that I'd kind of like to bring forward, I've just made a little bit of a notes if there's isn't any other questions before I move forward. The DDA search firm, like I'd said, is out of Minnesota. It's headquartered here. They've worked in HR in the government industry for 9 years. They did offer a guarantee that this person that they find will stay in the office or stay in the job for 24 months, or they will research another candidate at no additional charge. So they're guaranteeing that their person that they have their offer to and is their final candidate will stay on the job for at least 2 years. If that doesn't happen, they will do the search again at no charge.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mdek.
Thank you. As Ms. Mort is going through some of these highlights, if you will, or points, could we ask questions? 'Cause my question there, as you were saying this about guaranteeing, did the other two firms also do that?
They did.
Okay.
Yes, each of the other two firms offered a similar guarantee, but for half the length of time. They would guarantee a 12-month appointment. And also, government HR or GovHR would give a 12-month guarantee, but it would cost another additional $4,000 because there would just be the one recruitment fee that they would honor. The rest of the expenses would be charged again. Baker Tilly is also a 12-month guarantee, and they would redo the search as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Other services from each one of them, background checks, personality checks, reference checks. I mean, they will do the entire gamut of the hiring process, selecting candidates for your approval for interview. They'll do the initial interviews. Then they'll do background checks and personality checks and criminal checks and credit checks and education checks, the entire gamut. And then they will offer some finalists for your approval. And then those finalists would be interviewed by a panel, not the entire board, however that looks when we decide that. Okay. So, and then there would be the final offer, and most of the firms did offer a negotiation piece as well, that they would negotiate the offer. I think that DDA's was a little bit more detailed in the offer and negotiation process. Okay. The pricing on it, for DDA, it was $22,000. For GovHR, it was $23,500. For Baker Tilly, it was $24,500. DDA would expect payment on completion of the entire project. GovHR would expect a 40% down, a 40% midway, and a 20% at completion. Baker Tilly is asking for 30% down, 30% after phase 1, 30% after phase 2, and 10% on completion. Additional services that I found a little bit interesting from DDA, they do follow up with a new administrator a year after hire to see how it's going. So I thought that was kind of a neat thing. Baker Tilly does offer additional visits, in-person visits, but they would be at $220 an hour plus expenses, travel expenses. GovHR really is very virtual. They don't really talk about having any on-site visits. And I think in-person visits are very important. Myself, I know that when we went through, I've not gone through a formal search process with the county as of yet, but when we've had other consulting firms, when we were doing our comp worth study and so on, having those one-on-one meetings or meetings with a steering committee or a search committee, I think are invaluable. And having a consultant that's going to be dedicated to you also, I think is really important. Each one of them had that. I think the PDA only had one. There was a team of 2 that were from Baker Tilly and then one from GovHR.
I have
Commissioner Anderson.
Sure. You said DDA has been doing this for 9 years. Did you find out how long these other 2 firms have been doing it as well?
Absolutely. GovHR has been 13 years in the doing searches, And Baker Tilly has been in government accounting. They didn't really break out the search piece of it, but they're basically an accounting firm that offers a lot of diversification of services over the course of whether it's local government or state government. They're in a lot of different areas, but they've been in the business for 90 years. I don't know how long specifically they've been in the search
Yeah, so
business.
that's apples and oranges. not
Right,
apples
right.
to apples.
Exactly. But yeah, so they've been in comparable times of service because like I said, Baker Tilly they're very much established in government. However, it's been in other areas of government, such as accounting and things like that. I think that the search firm piece of it probably was an add-on for a diversification piece later.
Okay.
My other comment would be, I really like where they guarantee 24 months, and that they do follow up within a year, and do a visit. To me, that appeals to me, so.
I'd like to just add a little bit that we have a little bit more discussion and everybody gets a chance to say something before we have a motion, but did somebody else have a comment or otherwise proceed?
I think David Drone is involved with the CPT recruiting, or did at one time. That rings a bell. I also like their 2-year guarantee.
That's the DDA you're talking about.
That's
Okay.
and they're the cheapest, and plus they promise a free follow-up. There's a lot of good things to be said for them. But
Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Connie, is one of these firms do more of this type of search for local units of government in Minnesota?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that was one of the points that I had on my spreadsheet as well. Searches over, and they did give us this information in the packets to some extent. DDA has had 42 local government searches in the state of Minnesota in the last 2 years. That includes city government and county government. So it could be city administrators or county coordinators or county administrators. Of the 42 searches in the last 2 years, 13 of those were county administrator searches in 2 years. Government HR, they gave an example of 3 different searches in the state of Minnesota, and they were all city administrators. They didn't give it a timeline. Baker Tilly has had 24 Minnesota searches in the last 5 years, and 4 of those were county administrator searches.
Mr. Emdek.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, as I read through these proposals, and I'm sensing this kind of here, that 2 of them sort of rose above the crowd, if you will, in their qualifications. And one of the things that I paid attention to was kind of a track record, and David Drown does the 24 months, and we know both locally, and if you read the Minneapolis paper before you came here today, North St. Paul is going through the same process of where they've had to make good on their guarantee.
Right.
In both cases, that I'm familiar with, there was a lot of churning over a period of time. And so I reached out to a county commissioner from Dakota County to just get his insight into kind of what was going on there. Was that a weakness in David Drown and Associates, or was there some cultural thing going on at that city council? And he had good things to say about David Drown, and he indicated that there's been some history in that environment. So I was concerned about that. The reason I picked up the phone call, but my concerns have been relieved greatly. And I think being a local company, they know the landscape. They're probably going to know a lot of the prospects. And so I'm leaning heavily towards David Drown and Associates.
Well, and just to put a little bit of emphasis on that as well, if you've done 42 searches, 13 have been for county administrators in the last 2 years, I think your name is out there for, places if people are looking for that particular kind of job. Not to say that Baker Tilly hasn't had their, a share of searches as well, but not nearly as many as DDA in the last 2 years. I think they're kind of a hot commodity right now.
I would just like to add in too that with David Drown or DDA Associates, I worked with them just last year on a hire for a position with the Prairie Lakes Youth Program for the director, and it was a very positive experience. And they've done other things around here as well. I have a feeling that it's very competitive. Cost is a factor, but it's so close. I think if for the dollars, I think we got to pick what we think fits best for us at that point. Also, Baker Tilly, I think they all could do the job. And it's just a matter of what we feel fits for us. I think Baker Tilly could do a very good job as well. And they work closely on several searches for the city of Wilmer. And they know the territory well. And I would also think they do an excellent job. And I think, as you mentioned, maybe those two have the most experience here, even though I know somebody on Gov HR one, and I feel they could do as well a good job too. But just going back to it, I did have a couple of questions, and I'm just feeling comfortable with the two top ones that you mentioned. The question I had, David Drown laid out a nice time frame. They all laid out time frames. It was easier to follow. And they said they could start, I believe, the 17th of this month.
Right.
And it wasn't as clear with the other two when they could start. Could they start immediately?
It was dependent upon acceptance of the proposal. If we accept a proposal, or if the board accepts a proposal today, then we would start that timeline. But they were unclear. It would be a 2-week timeline before they started with information gathering. Like I said, DDA does have, the timeframes pretty specific, and I'm sure that there's going to be some area, if information doesn't get back to them or doesn't get back to us, where we may have some adjustments in that timeline.
So what you're saying, they all could probably meet the timeline that you, and we just briefly talked about, but that it takes 3.5 to 4 months, and that puts us hopefully by the end of September that we'd have somebody on board, and they would have to give a notice, most likely where they live, where they work for at least 4 weeks, maybe even 6. So we're into the 1st of November or the middle of November. And then they would come on board after that, whoever that person would be. And that would give us time frame, and your retirement date was February 24th? 24th. Does that fit with the board? And as we make a decision. And now that's all I have to say.
Roger had his hands up before I did.
Oh, they, okay.
So I do
Please
have a
proceed.
question before I proceed with it. I'm prepared to make a motion, if you will, but so we won't have a chance to meet the person that will be assigned this project, right? I assume that at DDA, at Baker Tilly, and the other one, there are a number of representatives that, kind of like a realtor, you've got many agents. What if, in the case, sometimes there's just, the chemistry isn't there, what happens then?
Then I think that with DDA, if we're speaking just of this particular person.
And I've never met this person,
Right. Right now, Liza Donbauer would be our project lead, and she would be, I think that she would be coming for a visit or an introduction, because she wanted to do each one of them outlines how that process works as far as getting information for brochures, getting community information, getting county information on all of you, information on our staff, all of those things that are going to be of interest to a prospective county administrator. Those are all opportunities to get to know, our team lead, whoever that may be. Right now, of course, it's Ms. Donna Bauer. We also have Liz Foster that's going to be the assistant consultant for that. There is a number of other staff members, and if we, I've heard good things about Liza from my other counterparts, HR counterparts that have had dealings with DDA in searches, and so they've been happy with her. But yes, personalities could be different, but there would be another person that they would have to assign then.
So are you saying they could possibly come to our next meeting, or Liza could come?
I believe that is what they were looking at doing, yeah. Because they wanted to get this started like June 17th already, as far as like doing the interview process and things. I'd have a follow-up with them.
Commissioner Emdek?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move to engage David Drown and Associates for the
I will
search
second
process.
that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Emdek, a second by Commissioner Nissen for David Drown's Associates. And at this point, any further discussion? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be supporting the motion today. The only concern that I had when I was looking these over is that they didn't specifically address the question of diversity within searching for the candidates, but I can't imagine in this day and age that a search firm is not going to be cognizant of that. Given that our county does have such diversity, I think it's important that they understand that we need an administrator that's going to understand and be supportive of that diversity.
Yes, and I think as this whole process, they're going to be contacting each one of us individually too, and we can restate some of those concerns we have and make sure that happens. And I know David Drowns has worked with this area, so they've done some background checking as well. And,
Right.
what's needed.
And under their advertisement and recruitment piece in their proposal, they do talk about reaching out to women leading government as an association, network of Asian public administrators, as well as some other areas. So they are familiar with outreach to diversity groups as well, to some extent. And I do agree, Commissioner Gardner, that I think that Baker Tilly was a little bit more robust in where the associations that they reached out to. But I would think that if we made that request to DDA or David Drowns, that they would honor that as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any further questions or comments from anybody about the procedure and the time frame and the timelines? And okay, I will call for the vote then. All in favor of doing an agreement with David Drown Associates, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for all your work, and I know it's not over yet.
No, it's
and
not.
I'm assuming then you'll be contacting the other two, and
Yes, I
please
will.
pass on how tough decision this was. I like the other two as well. There's no
Yes.
doubt about it, but this is a good choice, I think, for us and a good fit for us.
Well, absolutely. I mean, they were the three front runners. That's why we reached out to them for a request for proposal. So yes, each of the firms was, had some very good points.
Yeah, very competitive.
Yes.
But we did save a few dollars going this route too. That's always good.
All right. All right.
Thank you very
so
much.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to call on Administrator Kleindahl
I'll
and,
yield my spot to Mel to do the wine, and I'll do mine all together as a group.
sure. Please proceed, Mel.
Spending payments?
Were you on to be excused?
Not yet.
Put it up. Yeah.
Okay. Pretty soon.
Okay, excuse me, just to let us know. Okay, sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine.
Mr. Oden, please proceed.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, what I've got before you is, there it is. We did lease agreements for the excess property on the Wilmer Y. And one of the tracks, as shown on your screen, is a 12.5 acre piece. It's north of New Highway 12 and east of the north-south road and just west of the railroad tracks. The problem that we're running into is they have to prepay for the year they're going to use it. We have these 3-year agreements. There's 2 years left. I believe this one actually was a 2-year agreement because we kind of had a hiccup with getting it a lease because of the usability of the land. But anyway, the area from about right here northerly is all underwater. And we met out there yesterday with the state, the city, the contractor, and Burlington Northern, their engineering representative. We're trying to figure out the route that this used to go, was supposed to go, and we're in the middle of getting that figured out yet this summer. But with that being said, there's only 9 acres tillable, and there's only about 2 acres left. And so our recommendation from a staff perspective, because this was a lease that was signed by the county board, would be to reimburse Dane Colvig for this year's rent that he's already paid us. He would like to keep it for next year, though. So our recommendation is to reimburse Dane Colvig in the amount of $2,625. And because of unusable land.
A motion by Commissioner Nissen to approve that, a second by Commissioner Gardner. Any further discussion?
Yeah. So that 2 acres, is that going to get planted or is he just going to leave it all?
We'll either, we're not even sure.
Okay.
We were out there, there's really no way to get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it somehow if we can get this pumped down
Might be a
or
gift.
Yeah.
mow the weeds or, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating.
All right.
Duck hunting.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Pass unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward. And I'll call on Administrator Kleindahl, and you want to update us on the recycling building.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, as you know, on March of 2020, I'm going to shut this off here. Let's see my notes.
You're going to have to teach one of us.
Huh?
You have to teach one of us. Of course, that might be a little hard.
So as you know, in March of 2020, we quit doing our recycling at the recycling center. Since that time, we've used the building off and on for COVID vaccinations. We use it for storage for public works or for sentences served. But the building's been sitting empty. We did have a sublease with it for shred it. We have been working and having been in a lot of discussions with the community transit about possible taking that over for their use. I've been in conversations for over a year with CCT, and I know we have 2 commissioners on that committee, and then they've been going back and forth. But at some point, we need to act, and I want to have the board to have that opportunity to start thinking about what we want to do with that facility. As you know, my pattern has always been is to give you information ahead of time so you can start thinking about it, so you have time to think about it, so when we get ready to act, it's not a surprise. And so I want to start that conversation today about, we have a facility, the inside of the facility is about 24,750 square feet of use. The outside parking area is a little over a half acre. We have had conversations with the city of Wilmer because it's in the city limit. How can we divide out and parcel that out? We would still need to have options to better use it. You know, part of that property for the household hazardous waste that we have. So we have to have drive through there. We also have our community service building in the back area, so we need to have access. So the building's going to be right in the middle of county property, but it is doable. I've had several conversations or phone calls inquiring about the availability of that building. And so at some point, I think, you know, we as a county or you as a board will need to make a decision. What do you want to do with that? And I know CCT is working really hard to try to get some answers about whether that building would work for a new facility for their buses, or would it be more profitable, or not profitable, but better for them to build new and instead of trying to remodel an old facility. And I know you guys are working on that. But at some point, I would think maybe by this fall, we should make a firm decision we want to do with it. And I think that put CCT on notice that we'll, at some point, we'd like to act on it one way or another. It cost us last year approximately $16,000 to keep it heated. And we also, because we had it maintaining it at a low temperature, we did have one of the sprinkler heads freeze. We had water, so we had to replace a sprinkler head. So a facility like that, you have to maintain it. And so the longer it's empty, the harder it is on buildings. And so we would like to dispose of it, if that's what you wish to do, sooner than later. If there's other county uses that the other departments may want to look at, we can have that conversation. As of this time, I'm not aware of any other county use for it. So any questions from you that you'd like me to be looking at with that facility, or any discussions that you would like to have on this topic today?
I would just like to add too that very timely you bring this up. Commissioner Anderson and myself have a CCT meeting on the 29th of this month, and I think it's going to be addressed then finally. But our gut feeling has been, and kind of the message, if the county feels strongly we got something going on, that we are certainly not obligated to them, but they certainly appreciate us hanging in there if we could. But I think we got to move forward. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Larry, are some of the conversations, without breaking confidentiality or anything, just generally speaking, are those conversations regarding a purchase of that property?
Either way, one of the conversations said if we weren't ready to sell it, could we lease it to them? And my recommendation, if we can sell it, that would be the first option. I don't think government agencies are good landlords. I think we should,
suspect you're right.
So,
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Emdek.
So would the selling process be similar to the one we went through earlier today on the?
that is correct. Because of it, it's over $15,000, we would do advertising and do sealed bids.
Commissioner Emdek, proceed.
Do we ever consider the use of a realtor in these cases, or do we always? I mean, maybe that's.
So, Mr. Chair, in the past, when we're like egg line and stuff, we have used a realtor to help guide us through it. We've also used a realtor to help do a public auction. We can also do public auction and do an ad. So we wouldn't have to do sealed bids. You could do a public auction if you follow the guidelines of advertising. And so you could go that process as well. I know a lot of egg land right now are doing live auctions or online auctions.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, that's good.
Like I said, this is information only, no decisions were made. It's just to start that process. So when we have to make a decision of where we're at. And so I've had some questions, and I thought I'm going to put it out there for you and the public.
Sure, you bet, thank you, and it'd be nice to get that cleared up this year, if we could possibly do that. Also, I just wanted to just make a note that Commissioner Nissen had to leave. He had another county important meeting he had to attend, so he's excused, and I appreciate that he's willing to do this.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, the next thing I'd like that was an agenda item I added, and that's regarding the Kennebec County remote work policy and procedures. As you know, we did our first remote work policy approval on September 21st of 2021. And as you know, we took several months to put it all together. And I would like to, after meeting with our team, I'd like to make one minor change under section J, which is under work site criteria. And currently it reads under letter B, the employee's remote work site must be within 60 miles of the employee's official work site. Okay. Well, when I was, as we're having conversations and I'll back up, as you start working on a project and you start putting a policy together, you want to have it as clean and cut as possible. But sometimes when you do that, you handcuff yourself about employees. So when it was brought to my attention about the 60-mile thing, I went and looked at the different maps about area cities that are close to us. And the 60-mile piece, really what the intent was that we have the employee be able to get to the office within an hour. That's what the intent was. And so what we were thinking, when I started looking at it, I looked at Marshall. Marshall's about 67.4 miles away. Takes about an hour and 15 minutes to get here. St. Cloud is about 65 miles, 0.2 miles. That takes about an hour, between an hour and 10, an hour and 13 minutes. Alexandria, which is 71.5 miles, if you take 94 to 71 to get to Wilmer, you can get here in an hour and 13 minutes. And Delano, which is only 65 miles, but it's on Highway 12, takes an hour and 20 minutes. So the 60-mile thing really wasn't meeting what we want. So what we would like to add is just take the 60 miles up and put employees expected to report to the official work site in a reasonable amount of time from the remote work site. And that's the only change that we're recommending. And I would need a board motion because it's a policy to make that change.
Okay. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move upon the recommendation of the administrator.
Okay. We've got a motion to move on that.
I'll second that.
And Commissioner Anderson will second it. Any further discussion? Commissioner Emdick.
And my only concern is the definition of reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted an employee in here, it's noon, 11 o'clock now, and you wanted them here by 2 or even today, might be a little unreasonable if they've got a full schedule for them.
Right. And so, Mr. Chair, because the remote work policy is not a right, we have the supervisors in the county has a lot of flexibility. If we tell them you need to be here within reasonable time and they don't do it, it's not automatic that they have a right to work remotely. But it also gives that supervisor and that employee, if they do have appointments, we understand that. But if there's circumstances where it might be an hour and 20 minutes, but because even with the 60 miles, in the wintertime in Minnesota, especially if you live south, you live down the Waynes area yourself, it's blizzarding in July down there. Not really. I don't mean to pick but you could have bad roads that take you longer than an hour. Just because of if you live in Redwood County and coming up here, it's tough to see sometimes.
So, yeah, so it's just really open-ended then, you're just saying. Could have been worded differently to, at the discretion of the administrator to make exceptions.
Oh,
I know,
God.
administrator probably wouldn't like that.
We have over 100 and some employees doing the remote, and as they come up,
Okay.
I don't want to, that's what we hire department heads and supervisors.
Okay, or,
Can I just make a quick point?
yeah, please.
I think, in the way that the policy is written or the revision is written, it is from the remote work site. And remember, those remote work sites need to be approved in advance. That's part of the agreement. So the remote work site does not change to my fishing cabin in International Falls.
Okay.
It's still going to be my remote work site. So you're still going to be within that reasonable amount of time. And, barring weather conditions or what have you, that reasonable amount of time is still going to be around that 60 minutes because that remote work site is approved.
Okay. Well, Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. And I'll leave it to either of you two to answer, but can we assume that this is coming up because we might have some potential for retention or recruitment issues?
Of course. I mean, the job market is very competitive, and if we can be flexible, it's better off for us to retain employees. One of the things, as you know, and I told you this when we passed this policy, I did not want a remote work policy, and I thought that was, I'm from the old school, I thought everybody, you show up to work and you have your teams, but I realized this day and age, if you're going to be competitive, you have to change your way of thinking, and the flexibility is a must.
Good point.
The practicability of having an all-in-person workforce is just not there in this day and age right now.
Yeah.
So,
Any other further discussion?
So I just have
Commissioner
one
Beck.
question. So when I'm out in my woods working with my bees or my maple syrup, then do they not get to call me too while I'm out there? Or
Well, okay. Any further thing else? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously. Thank you for bringing that forward. And really a good point that we do need flexibility, and we do have good employees, and we want to keep them. Thank you for bringing this forward, Larry.
Thank you. Next thing I have on the agenda, Mr. Chair, is regarding the Emmer Ash Borer. As you notice, that we've been notified that we do have Emmer Ash Borer in Kennewick County. And it's very concerning. One of the things with our county parks and our policy, we've been trying to limit the transportation of firewood because we're worried about Emmer Ash Borer, because most of our county parks, most of our public lands, we have ash trees. And one of the things I think we're learning across the state and the nation is when you're planting trees, make sure you have diversity of multiple types, whether it be, so you don't end up with all elm or don't end up with all ash. And those are things we're learning about. But the Emmer Ash Borer is quite concerning. The quarantine of transporting firewood out of the county is very important. There is an informational meeting coming up on June 8th from 10 a.m. to 11, and you can register at www.mda.state.mn.us/EAB. And to hear more about it, but I would ask the citizens of Kennewick County to keep your eyes open and be active in monitoring your ash, and we will do the same within our county properties. Again, as we talked about, this is one of the things we did not want to have happen in our county. So I just want to have that on the agenda.
Okay, Commissioner Mdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it was inevitable. When it was first discovered in about 2009, a DNR forester said it's going to move at about, I think it was about 12 miles per year on its own. But as a county, and maybe this is almost more a question for, I don't know, Public Works or who does this work, is that, do we plant some trees every year? And I think I see some new ones out here.
Yeah.
Diverse trees in preparation for this in our public spaces.
Not every year, no.
Not every year.
Not every year.
We should maybe consider a little more aggressive reforestation.
Good point. Okay. Any other questions, comments about the dashboard? No, thank you. Proceed.
Just a couple administrative notes then. Most of them have to do with meetings. Our Board of Equalization will be June 21st at 6 p.m. in this room. Keep that in mind. We have a district AMC meeting on June 10th at Wood Lake, Minnesota, starting at 8 a.m. And then on June 23rd, the Carbon Summit, there'll be a public information meeting at the Wilmer Communities Center on June 23rd from 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. And there's some other ones that are around the area, but that's the only one in Wilmer, and I encourage you at least to attend one if you can, to get some information, some background information on that. Mr. Chair, that's all I have at this time.
Okay. I just look at the calendar, and that same day on the 23rd is the county silent auction.
Correct,
Coming up,
yep.
so,
Starts from 10 to 2,
okay.
and you have to pay that day, right afterwards, and pick up by 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you. All right. At this point, any calendar issues? One thing I thought I'd bring up real quick, just briefly, is too bad Commissioner Nissen is going to miss this conversation. I think he brought it up first, or maybe you did too, Steve, about a fair booth together. A fair booth that we would do a county commissioners fair booth as a group. That kind of open up, and we can discuss that with each other then about how that would work out then if we put that together. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, you and I collaborated on a booth last year, being that it's an election year. I assumed that had there been contested races amongst the five of us here, that we wouldn't be doing something as a group. But I think what I'm hearing you say is that the potential is to perhaps, have a booth and we take turns manning it. That's kind of the idea, and be out there as a resource for the public during the fair.
Yep. Not to campaign there, thank you. Yes, this would be just for information. I know every year Mel does a great job of putting together the TV and what's happening on the roads, and people can talk about recycling, and they can just actually sit down with the commissioner and just ask questions.
And then to follow up with that, I would ask Larry and Shane if they would see any potential issues with that.
No, Mr. Chair, because it's information only about what the county's doing. It's not, again, it's not there for campaign, but if you're talking, answering a question about recycling or any other business that we're doing within the county, that's part of county business, and you're elected already for that.
We just don't need any type of a potential quorum there.
Right,
Right.
That's the only thing we
Only
need to be
two.
cognizant
right,
of.
and it'd be pretty easy to do. And then the number of hours that's at the fair, you're gonna wanna spread your time out as much as possible.
Oh, man.
To have coverage, and so you're not,
That was a bunch of work last year.
Yeah,
I will-
a lot
I
of
will say
hours.
that.
Just
You
two
have
of us,
five of you,
so-
you spread yourself out.
That would be nice if there was more of us.
That's my issue is I don't like sitting in one spot like that a lot. That I'd rather just walk around the fair instead of having a booth. I mean, that's my personal preference. It's
All right.
Thank you for those clarifications. I
Yes, I'm
appreciate
glad
that.
you clarified part of that too. So I knew, we were thinking along the same line, but to make sure everybody else had the same idea and the concerns. I'd like to now go to committee updates, and I would like to start with Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a relatively light last couple of weeks. Couple of different meetings last week. One was with the Candidacy County Mental Health Local Advisory Committee, and my first time being able to take that one in. Every time it was scheduled, there's been a conflict, so I was happy to be able to go there and visit. My comments to the group revolved around our ARPA continuing conversations, and mental health being one of those areas that I had put forward as a possibility for funding. I'd asked the group to maybe potentially help come up with some ideas along those lines, because I'm certainly don't possess a lot of expert subject matter myself on that. The other item, Chair, the Candidacy County Drug-Free Coalition, and I wanted to point out that there's a huge concern right now over fentanyl being quite a scourge in our communities right now. We have had some overdoses and some deaths among people who potentially literally did not know what they were taking, what was in them. And the experts on that coalition are telling us that this can literally be in anything anyone ingests. It can be, or, it can be in marijuana, it can be in literally anything. So anytime any user is imbibing, they're potentially running the risk of a fentanyl overdose. And I don't say that to try to unnecessarily scare people. But the trend that we're seeing is more towards this type of thing, and it's extremely concerning. I know that Larry has worked hard on the opiate funding and all of that, and I would assume that this is on your radar and that there's further discussions necessary on that. But I would just really speak to people who are using at the moment. Please, 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 if you're going to do that, be careful. I don't recommend the use, but I know that people are going to, and I just don't want to see any more, especially young people, die at the hands of something that is so relatively easily preventable. Coming up, I'll be in St. Paul for a couple of days. I have an orientation down at Minnesota Department of Health, and then the following day is the State Community Health Advisory Committee meeting that I'll be attending. With that, I'll keep this short today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
before you move on from Mr. Gardner's comment, today we will be sending out a press release from the county, from the Health Human Services, and from law enforcement regarding the fentanyl use and what's going on.
Good.
Thank you.
Very well done. That's, yeah, I think it's good. Commissioner Anderson?
Yep. So I'm just making some notes here. Since our last county board meeting, I met with South Fork, Crow River, one watershed, one plan. I'm not sure how to really shorten that to talk about it, but it was pretty much just a regular meeting, nothing special other than that. They're going to have a kickoff event in Hutchinson at the fairgrounds, and it's their main building that they have there in Hutchinson, and that's going to be, I believe it's the 22nd of June. I think I'd have to double check that again now, but so that was kind of the major thing that they were talking about there. And then we're going to be looking for people that would be interested in sitting on like kind of an advisory committee for that as it gets moving along. On the 19th, I had a Pioneer Land Library System meeting. And it kind of goes back to where we were discussing about, trying to retain employees or even to get new employees. We've had a position open for quite a while for a head librarian, and we had one person that was interested, and they were hired, and before they got hired or actually started their job, they took another job somewhere else. So it is an issue to find good people and to be able to retain them. I mean, and so as far as our search for a county administrator goes on, I was really happy that the firm that we hired to do the search is going to have a 24-month kind of a guarantee that we'll be able to retain someone. And other than that, that was basically a regular board meeting. And then on the 23rd of May, I attended along with Commissioner Corky Berg, foster parent appreciation at Robbins Island, and they had some really good food there. But it was also fun to meet the foster parents, and people don't realize this. They volunteer. Some are almost appointed because they're related to the little kids that are put into foster care due to circumstances such as drug abuse or other issues. And so they get kind of put into it. And one guy said he's got 2 foster kids, and he was an older guy. He was Hispanic, and he said, "These are I'm in charge of 2 kids, and when they're done, I'm done." but and then other people have done it, and they've adopted the kids, and it's just kind of a great thing. And those people have a really great heart to do what they do. And that was just a fun thing that I attended and I was invited to, and I was really grateful for that, so I could attend that. On the 25th, I did a C6 task force meeting, and that also discusses, drugs, and they're the ones that, they do undercover work, and they they go and find the bad guys, basically, the drug dealers and different things like people like that. And I did ask about fentanyl, or however you say it, because there was a death that did occur in our county recently. And I said, well, how much does it take to overdose? And they said it can be as little as a grain of sand. And so I'm the type of person, I don't even like to take, over-the-counter medicine if I don't have to, because I look at my parents, how they've taken drugs, because they're getting older and they got all kinds of health issues. And I'm like, if I can avoid taking drugs as long as possible, that'll be better for me. and so I can't fathom how people would want to take something and, if they don't have to. It boggles my mind. But the drug is manufactured in China, and then they ship it over to Mexico, and then it comes across our southern border, and it is a real issue. And meth is an issue, and marijuana, and a lot of other drugs. But right now it's fentanyl. So I'll continue. I had a UCAP meeting. I attended that via Zoom. It was in Marshall, Minnesota. And I just thought, well, I don't want to drive that far, and they did offer a Zoom option, and I did that. And then after that, I did go to Mount Rushmore last week, so it was kind of our extra week that we have, and not a lot going on, and so I was able to bring the family out there and just had a lot of fun. So encourage people to go there, but also go to Minnesota and tour. There's a lot of places to see in Minnesota too, but Mount Rushmore is pretty fantastic.
You didn't ask me.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Emdek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on June 19th, I attended the Roseville Township meeting regarding answering questions and encouraging them to use some of their ARPA funds for a project. We have a project in Roseville Township where over half of their citizens will receive broadband. And so we're really asking them to participate in that. And then on the 23rd was the legislative update, and I know some of you guys were on that as well, kind of the end of session. If I have a moment here where I could maybe express my gratitude that we got bonding done at the legislature, barely. We got it done by 4 votes to increase the bonding, not bonding, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
the dollars, border to border.
Yeah.
But that success was balanced by really, I think, a dismal failure regarding the bonding bill. I mean, we got $9 billion surplus. There was a tax break in there for a lot of people, and now the work isn't done. I can think of at least 4 projects in the county that are off the table as a result of the bonding bill not getting passed. So that's very frustrating. Then we had a One Watershed, One Plan meeting last Wednesday. Well, we also had a Glacier Lake Sanitary Sewer and Water District meeting on the 23rd. On the 1st, we had One Watershed, One Plan, and everybody there driving to Litchfield where the meeting was struck by all of the erosion that's been taking place. And it's just a frustrating thing when you think of all the work that's been done over the last 10 years, and it seems like it all, no pun intended, but went down the drain in one big storm. And so we're really encouraging landowners to reach out to your SWCDs and your watershed districts to look at options to rectify some of that erosion issue. We had an EDC broadband committee meeting yesterday, I think it was, right? And continue to work on projects throughout the county, but primarily where we are able to at this point due to the limitations that we have. And then Larry already mentioned that spring district meeting on Friday. And Saturday, I've been invited to go to the ribbon cutting for the part of the trail from Sibley State Park or from Highway 71 up into Sibley State Park, so that'll be a fun thing. We've had a lot of ribbon cuttings, meaning we've been busy, which is a good thing, but we got to keep going. Thank you.
We've been getting a lot of things done in the county here, that's for sure. I had a foster care parent program along with Commissioner Anderson, and it was just really a delightful program. It was so encouraging to see that we have such a strong foster care program. going, and it's even stronger than I remember from before. And I always kind of worried that, well, it's going to be more corporate foster care, and it's going to be hard to find people. But there is quite a few people taking part in that, and they're serving a lot of kids, and it makes a difference, and it's very, very well done. It was almost moving at a time when you see people like that really open their houses up and their hearts up to the people that are really in need, and these kids. It's very, very, very special opportunity to be there. I had the Prairie Lakes Youth Program meeting, and we were in the black again, so that's a good sign. So a little bit of progress here and there, and we're moving forward. The bonding bill, we're a little disappointed with that. I won't say maybe greatly disappointed that the bonding bill did not get passed, because we were looking for a bonding bill for that as well. And everything sounds so positive, and I think the whole board is probably somewhat disappointed we didn't. They couldn't quite finish everything off. Some good things came out of it, out of the legislation stuff, but I just wish they could get back and take care of things yet. There's time yet, I think, but I don't know if that's going to be possible. But trying to be as nonpartisan that we just thinking about what's best for Candy White County, or we need some of that bonding bill. And it's just not our age, the county, but the city as well, and the schools too. I had a meeting with the schools concerning the Prairie Lakes Youth Program. I had a Hot Creek project meeting, and they're going strong, and they're going to be overseeing the Hot Creek One Watershed Plan. We also had a One Watershed Plan scheduled the same day. We do those two meetings the same day, and that was canceled because some of the people on the board do farm, and they had to take advantage of getting out. And we certainly understood that. So we postponed that meeting until next time. Hot Creek project's going well, and I'm feeling positive about our Hot Creek One Watershed Plan too as well. I just want to add that Commissioner Gardner and I are both on the Mayor's Task Force, not representing the board, but as citizens of Wilmer, and two parts of Wilmer. We both know it quite well. So I just want you to be aware of that, and that it's a Mayor's Task Force, and they're looking to see what can be accomplished in 4 months. But both Commissioner Gardner and myself are feeling that we're going to learn some things here too, maybe that would be helpful for the county as well down the road. Since we, with our work session coming up too, have identified housing as a major issue in the other cities in our county. We got to really make sure things are possible for them as well in the whole county. Pretty much covering most of my meetings, and I always get done. I should make myself notes to report. So often everything's involved in all the other commissioners. By the time you get to me, I have much to say. But it was Memorial Day weekend too, and it was a fifth week kind of. So all said, anything else any of the commissioners wish to say? Hearing none, I'll hereby adjourn the Candy White County Board of Commissioners meeting.